So, wache misoe. Hello, everyone. Lorraine Sutherland nin dishnakazen Arawapsket First Nation Mandushjin. Ehamashagot North Bay Dishithdan. Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Sutherland, and I'm from Arawapsket First Nation. But I live in North Bay and have been living in North Bay for several years now. I do try to get home as often as I can to Attawapiskat because, you know, being on the land and participating in ceremony is really, really important to me. So that's who I am, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about some of the things that have become really, really important to me as an Inanui school from the Omashkegoak territory, so Cree woman from the Omashkegoak territory, which is where Attawapiskat is within. It was through becoming an EA that I understood. Later, as a co-op student, I chose the path of education and started out as a teaching assistant in my home community of Attawapiskat at 19. And it was through there that I started noticing how, you know, our history and our culture was not in the forefront or was being taught, because a lot of our teachers that would come into our community were from away, and so with them they brought their Western perspective, Euro-Canadian perspective, and what they knew, you know, to be Canadian history. And so when I finally became a teacher a couple of years later, I made a really important decision to include our culture and our history. I think it's really important for students to feel, you know, to have a sense of pride, you know, have an understanding of who they are, where they come from. And of course, I can only share what I know as, you know, Omashkego, you know, Inanu school from Attawapiskat, but, you know, and I teach from those things, you know, the things that I've learned over the years about, you know, sharing story and learning from story, and also exchanging stories, you know, and how that informs who we are, you know, as our history from the past, how it informs us today in the present, and how it's going to inform us in the future. So really, really important. So one of the things that I do ask students, you know, one of the first assignments that I get them to do for Introduction to Indigenous Canadian Studies, of course, that I'm teaching through the summer Indigenous program at Nipissing University, is for them to tell me who they are and where they come from. You know, I think that's really, really important. And if they don't know, and I have had students who don't know their own history and, you know, often have a hard time with not knowing, and I try to say, you know, this is a start. Everybody's on a journey. Everybody's at a different place in that continuum of knowing who they are and where they come from. And it's okay that you've just started this summer. There's nothing wrong with that. So you try to learn through, you know, the people that, you know, you work with in the community. You know, sometimes some people are not ready to share that, and that's okay. So you try to do the best that you can by listening to story, you know, watching how people are on the land, working with the land. You know, that's all part of that Debadjimo and that narrative. Because I've learned over the years that, you know, despite residential school and colonialism, you know, when you get people together, because the whole point behind that was to separate us, right? Divide and conquer us. But people had pieces of that knowledge. There were pieces that have always existed. And then when you bring people together, that puzzle becomes whole. And so that's what I like to share with my students. You pick up something here. Hopefully I can share something with you from what I've experienced. The way that we have been taught to learn about who we are is through trial and error, you know, and because we don't know everything, and we do the best that we can to learn what we can in the time that we have. So I think that's important. With everything that I've done in education, and the mentors and the people that have been in my life have shared a little bit of that and has informed my practice. So I teach from Debadjimon, I teach from narrative, from my lived experience.